So we have a VVOL Datastore, storage containers, VASA all set up. Let's make a VM. New virtual machine. I'm going to create a blank virtual machine. No OS. Make it simple to play with. VVOL Datastore is an easy name. Remember, cluster E is where our storage is presented. When we get to select storage, just like a traditional one, I'm going to pick that data store. The VM storage policy up top is what's important. I'm going to leave it default so we see what happens, but policy-based management is the new name of the game when we're dealing with VVOLs. The rest, again, this is a simple test. Click through and finish out the VM creation. As a VM is being created, because we picked that VVOL data store, it has multiple pools behind it. So where's it going to put it? If you remember, the VVOL data store had a default profile, but really we always want to have a storage policy so that we control where it's going. So let's figure out where it went. Click back on VVOL Datastore. If we go into the summary and the VM hardware information and drill into that hard disk, we'll see it's on the VVOL. But beneath the VM storage policies is what starts becoming important. Again, there is a no requirements policy of which it's compliant. So where is it? Let's flip over to Unisphere. Look at the Unity. Under virtual volumes, now we're going to see VVOL Datastore exists. Not just the virtual machine, but we see the individual VMDKs and data files. We see what capability profiles they have and what pools they're in. It decided to put it across two different pools. I want it in one pool. Let's fix that. Go back up in vSphere Web Client, Policies and Profiles. Drilling into that, we're going to go into VM Storage Policies, make a new storage policy. Click on Create. We're going to give it a name. I'm going to call this Unity Bronze to demonstrate service level policy management. Under the rule set, I have a handful of options. I'm going to base my rules over Unity VVOLs, and I'm going to pick service level. It's going to give me all the options, selecting Bronze. It'll tell me which data stores are compatible with the policy I just made. And the VVOL data store we made off UnityVSA is there. Clicking Next is going to validate our settings real quick. Service level is Bronze. That's because one of those capability profiles is Bronze. Now I have a new storage policy. Flipping back to my VM, I'm going to actually reassociate the VM with that policy. So right-click on VVOL Datastore, and under VM Policies, I'm going to edit the VM storage policy. From the drop-down list, I'm going to choose Unity Bronze, and I'm going to apply to all. We'll get into individual VVOLs and policies later. So, what is that doing? That's telling the vSphere that it needs to match the policy. So vSphere is making a policy decision saying, hey, one of those two files is not on that capability or that pool, so it's going to need to change it. So while it's reconfiguring the virtual machine, it's moving some data around. Now remember, I made this as a blank VM, so it's going to be very quick. Now the VM storage policy down there is compliant as Unity Bronze. What did that do on the VSA, on the Unity backside? Let's flip back to Unisphere and see. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page. And you can see now that both the data and the config are both on CP250 vSAN capability profile, which means they're both in pool 250. That's policy-based management.